If you focus on the customer experience and you don't lose sight of that customer experience involving personal interaction, you will always be in business.
Everyone eats out, but people often miss how the food arrives on their plate. Every meal has a story of growers, suppliers, founders, and operators making it all happen. Welcome to Grounded. I'm Lauren Mitchell, and each week I will bring you conversation with the amazing people behind the brands you know and the ones you'll want to know. Grounded is powered by the Buyer's Edge platform, the leading food service digital procurement network, powered by data, software, and collaborative relationships. Let's get grounded. Today's guest is a purpose-driven leader, franchise strategist, and growth architect. He brings over 2 decades of expertise in shaping scalable, high-growth franchises rooted in integrity and sustainability. He's launched more than 15 brands, driving the development of over 1,200 units, and currently Vice President of Franchise Development and a franchisee for Angry Chickz. Mike LaRue, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lauren. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. I want to hear all about this hot chicken. I want to hear about the scorching levels of heat a guest can experience. We're going to get all down to the nitty-gritty ingredients. I can't wait.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so for those that aren't familiar, Angry Chickz is an emerging brand. Started out in California, has been growing not just in the West, but from coast to coast. And so I want to start there. What are the key learnings for a brand that, wants to expand and is growing not only within a region, but nationally? What are some of the critical components either you learn as a result of watching the growth and developing the growth yourself that you can share with our listeners?
I try and keep it black and white. And really, I break it down into 3 things. When you make any decision, I think of 3 check boxes. Is it good for the brand? Is it good for the market? And is it good for the franchisee who's developing that market? And if you can't check all 3 of those boxes, then there's something off. And so as as a brand expands, as you're talking to potential franchisees, if you can't check all 3 of those, then something's missing.
So when you look at potential franchise partners, how do you vet them to know that they're a fit? I mean, is it a culture? Talk to me more about that.
Yeah. So initially they have to have franchisee experience, not just being a franchisee, but they have to have experience in operating multiple restaurants. So they have to prove that they understand what it looks like to open 1, open 3, 5, and they know what that G&A should look like. Obviously, we're a very simple concept, and 90% of the time, we're more simple than I think anything that's out there. So having the experience obviously is there. Obviously, having the capital that goes without saying. I usually like to see from a liquid standpoint that operators have, from a liquid standpoint, the first 24 months in cash to be able to fund. Not to say that they would do that, but never want to focus on financing as the main route to open at least the first 2 restaurants, because if that dries up and you're mid construction, you're kind of screwed. Mid culture,
Yeah.
those obviously first 2 are given, but then when it comes down to culture, that's like the final stamp. I mean, we've talked to large multi-unit groups that were good operators and they probably would have been good franchisees, but from a culture standpoint, just didn't align with what we were about and how we want to grow the brand. So, culture is definitely the big thing.
I want to go there, actually. How would you define or describe the culture of Angry Chickz?
People first. If you take care of your people and you genuinely care about them and their families and how they're doing, then that's going to extend to how they treat their staff and their team members. And if the team members within the four walls feel appreciated and valued, that's going to extend to how they treat the guest. And as the guest comes in, if the guest feels appreciated and valued, then obviously you have a repeat customer. So it all starts with ultimately how you treat your people and how you value them and appreciate them.
Absolutely. I mean, as your units extend into these different communities, you guys are there to serve the community members and become, that really becomes critical into their ability to return and come
Yep.
back. Do you find that most of your guests order the same thing? Do they get talk to us a little bit more about what they're going to find when they walk into a restaurant on the menu. And is it more common that they kind of jump from item to item just based on the different flavor profiles?
So people typically will get a fight. I'm a customer. I'm a go-to slider. Every once in a while, I might do the Angry Mac. So the Angry Mac, which is the mac and cheese, the tender in the middle, and the fries at the bottom. That's our number one seller by far.
I was talking to my kids today and I said, guys, I'm talking to Angry Chickz today. I'm super pumped. And they said, Mom, why are the chicks angry?
The original name was Angry Birds. And as one would eventually guess, there was a cease and desist that was sent.
Yep.
And had to change the name. And the idea was that the hottest level of spice that we have is angry. It's like angry hot. And so it's like, oh man, that's angry. That's super hot. So because Angry Birds was obviously taken, Angry Chickz wound up being the alternative.
So awesome. I imagine there's so much that this generation is enjoying about. I mean, first of all, there's so many holidays that you can run promotions off of. And I can't wait to get into just some of the technology and ways that you're kind of captivating the generation out there. I want to start with the strength that you have over franchise development. One, it always wonders with a brand that wants to keep kind of a specific quality and culture in place. How do you keep that alive and when wanting to grow a brand either across state lines and nationally like that?
It's funny because when I started here, I basically was told that, hey, you have this kind of white canvas, and being able to kind of create and mold this franchise infrastructure, if you will, on what you see could be like the ultimate, not to say perfect franchise, but it has to start with the top. And it has to start with the everything from the story to the founder to why he's doing this to his intent, and then it extends from there. And then you have your corporate infrastructure, but then you need the guys that are in the field to be able to obviously buy into that same philosophy, but be able to translate that to the restaurants and to the employees in the four walls. Now for us, obviously we have a lot of corporate locations. From a franchising perspective, I think that, I guess to break it down into it's in simple terms, it's if someone sincerely has like a people first mentality, it shows up in different ways. It shows up in the reviews in the restaurants. It shows up into the success of the restaurants. It shows up into how long have their longest employees been with them. Obviously, if you don't treat your people good, then obviously you're not going to have people who stick around. So when we talk to potential franchise partners, the biggest thing that we ask is what's their culture? How do they treat their employees? I literally ask the question like who's the longest tenured employee that have been there. Do they offer opportunities for their employees to become operating partners and owners? The ones who do usually treat their people well because they trust, they have the they have the ability to mold someone, trust them to obviously operate and do things the way that they would do. And so, granted, it's never going to be perfect, but at least for what we're doing now, I think we've done a pretty good job with partners that we brought on and the cultures that they run within their organizations. And obviously that aligns with kind of who we're about. And, hopefully 5 years from now, it's, we can look back and say, hey, we made the right decisions.
What's interesting about you is you're the VP of franchise development. So you've got that kind of that high level view of growing that part of the business and making sure that you've got potential franchise partners that fit the model. You understand how to balance the growth with the brand identity. But what about just being a franchisee? What would you say is the hardest part about being a franchisee?
I think you have to be able to look at you have to be able to look through the lens of a franchisee and understand their aches and pains and empathize with the struggles they go through on a daily basis, whether it's labor, whether it's supply chain, whether it's, you name it. It's, there's a lot of different struggles, and I think a lot of times franchisors don't necessarily, they've owned their own restaurants, and they've obviously done their own thing, but they've never been on the franchisee side, and it's a completely different mindset. So I've always empathized with franchisees just, through, through my career and being able to, kind of being that sounding board for franchisees. I really got a good chance to understand what they go through. And so going through this process myself, I didn't see any surprise. Like I said, just, the internal anxiety is just a little different because now it's not, now it's like my money is involved. It's not just somebody else's.
Sure. How about geography? So you guys are currently I'm talking to you, you're in California. Restaurants are in California, Nevada, Arizona. Where else? What states are you guys currently in?
So we just opened in Houston, Texas.
Awesome.
We have a franchisee group now in Illinois. And so looks like one of our first sites will be going in the Chicago burbs, if you will. And then we have another group in Pennsylvania, strong Dunkin' Donuts, Jersey Mike's franchisee. And we actually have a couple sites that are going to be popping up, one by the end of the year. And they're going to be developing, obviously, the Pennsylvania market. And then we have another site, San Antonio. We'll actually just started plans. And then looks like we'll have Austin, Tennessee, and Michigan getting wrapped up in the next 4 months.
That's interesting. So you guys don't have a target geographic area. As you just mentioned, you're pretty much coast to coast, popping up everywhere. You have a supply chain that can support that, which is outstanding. And we'll get into supply chain here in a little bit. Are you guys thinking about stadiums or any other units outside of just the brick and mortar? Just kind of knowing the ingredients in the food. You need the portable.
Yeah, so we're actually going through 2 RFPs right now.
Awesome.
So it's the first non-trad RFPs that we've had the opportunity to get into, and hopefully we'll get the thumbs up on those RFPs. But the non-trad route is definitely on the radar, and hopefully we can land these 2. And obviously, if not, we'll look for further opportunities. But it's just something that we haven't had. The opportunities have not presented themselves up to this point.
All right, you mentioned supply chain. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss.
Of course it is.
Especially for franchise-focused concepts, because it is unique and it's challenging. It's very challenging. And then also just because of your growth. So why don't we talk about just changes to your supply chain that you've had to make in the growth that you guys have experienced? Anything come to mind?
Um, obviously everyone's dealing with the whole chicken crisis right now. And so, working through that, and obviously price increases, and so supply chain's obviously a huge animal, and I feel it's one of the biggest things that brands miss when they start franchising or just start growing in general. It's just because you can offer something in a region doesn't mean that can translate 1,500 miles away, and uh, so we've been fortunate enough to have a head of supply chain who's been doing this for a long time, who has the ability to not just put together a strategic plan, but we've gone straight to the manufacturers to negotiate pricing, to where that doesn't necessarily fluctuate as much as possible. We can keep things consistent on the distribution side, so you're not getting any surprises if you're opening. I mean, how many times is the restaurant open 1,500 miles away, and their COGS are 15 points higher, and no one knows what happened.
Right.
So getting ahead of all that and having just the eyes of being able to understand what that looks like has been huge. Like we have a proprietary sauce that Cisco was doing it, and we decided to bring it in-house to manufacture it, but then we had to get it back into Cisco to distribute it. So, that was obviously a process. So yeah, it's been, even though we have 7 items on the menu, it's still not, we still run into our challenges for sure.
Yeah, so you covered a lot there. I mean, obviously with growth, the risks that can come with your ingredients is consistency of spec, price consistency, just overall visibility, especially with the franchise component. How about a decision that you've made, either based on the growth or just the structure, just really just time and experience that's had the most impact on your supply chain? It could be something positive or negative that you've learned from.
I would say having someone who is dedicated to overseeing supply chain. I feel like a lot of emerging brands, that role is, now granted, it kind of, it stems from our CFO, but having eyes on supply chain is, on a daily basis, is such a huge benefit, because obviously things change all the time. I mean, from a purchasing standpoint, like if you don't have eyes on the purchasing, and whether it's deliveries or missed deliveries or over deliveries, if you don't have eyes on that, I mean, that could substantially equate to a significant amount of money lost, that you would never know. And I think that probably happens more often than not, because unless you actually have a person who understands what that looks like and actually track and monitor it, you're never going to know.
Sure. I want to hear a little bit more about your personal career journey, how you got into this position. Why a passion for franchising? What you kind of, did you come upon it in happenstance?
You're from down here in OC, so do you ever remember Rockin' Baja Lobster in Newport Beach, which actually still live?
Yeah.
So I had dinner there one night, and at the time I had a direct marketing company with a buddy of mine, and I'm like, I need something more consistent. I was only a few years out of school, and I just happened to, when Monster.com was a thing, I saw Rockin' Baja Lobster, and honestly, I had zero. I knew nothing about franchising, and knew nothing about the restaurant business. To this day, some people know this, I've never worked in a restaurant in my life. Not even as a bartender through school. But I can look at a P&L and know exactly what's off. But so I had zero interest in getting into restaurants. But I saw Rockin' Baja Lobster. I clicked on it because I just eaten there. And then it takes me to this idea of franchising and entrepreneurship and dealing with, high net worth people to help, build and grow these brands, and that was super intriguing. And that was good. It's a long time ago. And so now I'm here. So, I mean, I love franchising in general because it's you can scale. As if you're a business owner, you can impact the communities that you're in, and the more you can scale, the more people you can impact. In the food business, you're basically in the people business, and I guess that's just any business in general, but especially food, you're in the people business. And regardless of what technology or AI or anything that comes out, you'll never wake up not being hungry. And so there's nothing going to ever change that. So people are always going to need to eat. And so I love the idea of creating just really cool experiences to where you can make someone, the impact you can make on somebody that walks into your restaurant can go far beyond you could ever imagine. Because you never know what someone's going through on a daily basis. And so just getting that moment in time and being able to, give that person a great experience, is super powerful. And that only works if you obviously have a good product. It only works if you have a good, call it a good partner or a good operator. And then only works is, if you have a good franchisor who has a great franchisee, has that, franchisee partner. So it all kind of extends to the top. But yeah, it's, and being able to, do that at scale, the more people you'll be able to impact.
How do you see the future of fast casual evolving in the next 5 years? Maybe even just speaking specifically for emerging brands. So you touched on something that's, interesting there. We're always going to have to eat. Technology is never going to replace that. I think people are always going to favor just the human experience. But any thoughts on just the future of how it's going to evolve?
I feel like the biggest discussion lately has been labor. How do you minimize labor? And so obviously you got kiosks, you got AI, you have robotics, you have all these things that are coming out to reduce labor. And I almost feel that, I don't know if it's going to go too far. I feel like the whole ghost kitchen concept went too far. Like I never believed that was going to be anything sustainable, because if you're selling food through a kitchen and you have no personal interaction, you just become a commodity. And we all know that, third-party delivery, you're paying for the convenience, and it's never going to be the same experience as if you're actually in the restaurant as far as the food quality goes. So when it comes down to that, the whole ghost kitchen concept, obviously kind of faded away. So when it comes down to, I think, the future of the industry as far as impacting labor, I think there's kind of like a fine line where, I think from a tech stack, perspective, brands are leading with, okay, well, we're eliminating, let's say, cashiers, and we're doing, self-service kiosk. And now we're taking that cashier, and that cashier is now becoming a hospitality consultant to, work with the guest. And I'm hearing good and bad experiences. But at the end of the day, I think if you focus on the customer experience and you don't lose sight of that customer experience involving personal interaction, you will always be in business.
Very insightful. I think just your focus on the customer experience and knowing what that looks like for Angry Chickz, very cool. Has that made any change in how you guys operate? Is, your pulse on that, being in the restaurants, being a franchisee yourself, can you think of an example of something that you've changed as a result of either just like guest feedback or, again, just, what you're seeing inside the restaurants?
We have a partner within Tattle. And so when it comes down to actually getting that guest feedback, that's been super insightful to really understand, what the guest is experiencing. that's even more important as we scale because you can't always have eyes on franchisee locations.
Right.
Um,
Right.
you know, for our restaurant, we really push because obviously we're new. We really push for Google reviews, because we want people do look at that type of feedback. But honestly, it's as far as how things have changed. Our founder built the brand based off of what he knew, and he inherently just wanted people to have a good time. And but as he started to grow, it's and not grow from a perspective of, hey, I got this DM and this operating partner. Like he was bringing up family because that's who we trusted.
All right. So Nashville hot chicken has exploded in popularity. What would you say makes Angry Chickz in particular stand out?
Well, our founders, insane palate, and attention to detail, I think is really a big part of it. So, when he started this, it wasn't, hey, I want to get on the Nashville hot chicken train and just start opening a bunch of restaurants. Like he just started creating hot chicken because he loved it and couldn't get it anymore. And so, but his ability to articulate what something should taste like, even to like, so our Angry Hot, which is, you have to sign a waiver. It's got like Carolina Reaper, like it's insane.
Oh, amazing.
So we have country, we have medium, we have country, mild, medium, and then we have hot, X hot, and Angry Hot. Medium is high.
Wow.
And I have a pretty good spice tolerance. The hot actually has most pepper in it. And so then you got X hot and Angry Hot. At the Angry Hot, it's not just, and this I think one of the biggest things where I think a lot of times brands that come out in this hot chicken space will try and just make something super duper hot.
Yeah.
Our flavor profile is actually incredible from what I hear at that level. Like we have an Indian franchisee. He's like, man, it's like, this brings me back to when I was a kid. It doesn't just like, there's actually, it's super flavorful, obviously super hot. But like I said, I wouldn't know because I tried the hot and it was too much for me. So
very cool. I love getting into the scale here. How about we go into some more, I call it final mile or rapid fire questions. Yeah. Well, I'll put you on the spot here. Global expansion. Is Angry Chickz planning or suited to go international at some point?
Yes. We're probably suited now. Like comparatively speaking to a lot of brands who start franchising internationally when they don't even have their infrastructure dialed in within North America. It is definitely on the radar. We are talking to a couple of partners that I think would be absolute perfect fits. But we're in no rush to, we're in no rush to go out and do a big, development.
What do you believe to be the greatest need in our industry?
I would say more government support. And I say it because, I feel like the IFA spends so much money on lobbying in DC, and you got guys making decisions that aren't pro franchising. And so I would say, more support on the just the franchisee business in general.
Good answer. What tool in your work days will be the most time?
Well, I work mostly remote. Well, I would say that as of today, I got this little, it's a monitor that serves as my second screen. So instead of, getting like big, PCs, and I say remote, I don't work out of a home office. I just work out of another building when I go back and forth. So that would be my biggest saver. So I can use multiple screens at the same time.
Multiple screens. You don't realize how useful that is until you're down at one screen, and then especially spreadsheet.
Like, I don't know how I could do. I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
How about a franchise or startup outside of Angry Chickz that you admire right now?
Pepper Lunch.
Perfect. If you weren't building restaurants, what would you be doing?
Maybe something like real estate development.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Travel.
That
I mean,
fits.
if I didn't have to work, that'd be traveling and philanthropy.
All right. How about what's been your proudest moment?
Being a dad.
Awesome. Okay. You've been delightful. I want to
That
make
was
sure.
easy.
I want to make sure guests can or listeners can connect with you either about the brand or future partnership. Where can people find you?
LinkedIn is great. Email is great. Mike.LaRue at angrychickz.com.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, this was fun. I appreciate, like I said, appreciate the opportunity to share the story. And that I can talk shop all day long, sometimes talk a little too much, but I enjoy it. So thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. If you learned something today, laughed, please share the podcast, subscribe. And again, if you're driving by an Angry Chickz, go in and get yourself a Nashville hot chicken. One of those mac and cheese bowls you talked about. My mouth's watering.
Yeah, Angry Mac, you will not be disappointed.
Awesome. This has been another exciting episode of Grounded. See you next time.
That's a wrap on this episode of Grounded. We've covered a lot of ground as we explored what it really takes to run food service behind the scenes. For show notes, highlights, and our latest market insights, visit us at groundedonthepod.com. Grounded is powered by the Buyer's Edge platform, delivering smarter solutions, greater efficiency, and real savings through connected tech, powerful data, and industry expertise. For more information and to get a personal demo of the Buyer's Edge platform, email me at lauren.mitchell@producealliance.com. And if you liked what you heard, subscribe so you don't miss an episode.